Well, students, today we will complete the last part of the contract of guarantee. So this is one of the specific contract here as prescribed for B.B.A 5th semester business law session. So indemnity and guarantee. So guarantee we have discussed the different here aspects. And now the last part, a 5 marks question can be asked here. A 5 marks question can be asked. Explain the modes of discharge of surety. How a surety gets discharged from his liability. So usual rule is that once you give the guarantee, you are not discharged. Until the contract comes to an end, you are not discharged. But there are circumstances where the surety gets discharged here before the contract is ended. So in what circumstances here the surety gets discharged from his liability? So that we are going to discuss here. It's a 5 marks question from your examination point of view. The first one is notice of revocation. So where the surety intends to revoke his here the surety given. So he has to send a letter to the creditor as well as the principal debtor, the notice of revocation. But this is not possible in specific guarantee. So in specific guarantee, once you give it, until the contract is over, it is here to be continued. But the notice of revocation here serves as the discharge of the surety in continuing guarantee for the future transactions. Till the notice of revocation, whatever transaction have taken place, for that he will be liable. But after the revocation letter to principal debtor and the creditor, here for the future transactions he will be not responsible. So he is said to have discharged from his liability. He gets discharged from his responsibilities. So it is in the case of continuing guarantee, not in a specific guarantee. Continuing guarantee. For example, in a specific guarantee, when here this notice of revocation is sent, here it will be not here acceptable. So it is not acceptable. For example, X has taken a loan from a bank and Y has given his guarantee, and the period of the loan is here 2 years. So after 6 months, if Y wants to revoke it, he cannot do so. So he cannot do so, he cannot revoke once he has given. It is a specific here for transaction. So it is a specific guarantee. For continuing guarantee, where the guarantee is extended for a series of transaction from the here the date of revocation, for the future transaction the surety is discharged from his responsibility. So that is the notice of revocation, and it must be served both on the principal debtor as well as the creditor. This is the first one. Second, death or insanity of surety. Again, this is in the case of here continuing guarantee. On the death of the surety or on the insanity, if the surety becomes insane, from then onwards, if it is a continuing guarantee, the surety is discharged from his responsibility. The surety gets discharged from his responsibility. So that is in case of the death. Here, for example, if it is a specific guarantee, here the legal heirs, the legal dependents of the surety would have been liable. But in continuing guarantee, on the death here or the insanity of the surety, the here surety gets a discharge from the future transaction. It is applicable again to the here continuing guarantee, not to the specific guarantee. This is a death or insanity of the surety. Variance in terms of the contract. So in case, so when the surety is given, what are the terms and conditions of the contract? If there is any variation, modification, major verification, which changes the nature of the contract. Without the knowledge of the surety, this change has taken place, then the surety gets discharged from his responsibility. So without his knowledge, if it is with his knowledge, it is here acceptable. But without the knowledge, here any variation in the terms of the contract which changes the nature of the contract. The nature of the contract should change. It is not the typing errors that will mind, like a comma or full stop. That is not here a thing of a variation. It should completely change the nature of the here contract. So suppose if a principal debtor and the creditor among themselves they change the terms of the contract without the knowledge of surety, surety is said to have discharge. That here the terms and conditions are not here applicable to the surety. So variation can be done in the contract with the knowledge of the here surety. But if it is without the knowledge, then he gets a discharge. That is variance in terms of the contract without the knowledge of the surety. Release of a principal debtor by the creditor. The creditor releases here the principal debtor from the debt, and he says that I will file a case against the surety, you are released. So such an act by the creditor releases the surety also. If the principal debtor is released by the creditor, it is also the release of the mainly surety also. Because if he releases here the principal debtor, here the surety's rights are impaired. So the release of principal debtor is also the release of the here surety. So this is if the principal debtor is released here from the creditor. Creditor releases him. In that circumstances, here we say that here the surety is also discharged. So it comes to an end there. Giving time or agreeing not to sue the principal debtor. So where a creditor, he gives more time or he promises that he will not file a case against the principal debtor. Such assurances releases the discharge of the surety's liability. If he gives time, so if the time is given by the principal debtor, to the principal debtor by the creditor extends the time. Here giving time or agreeing not to sue the principal debtor. So the creditor says that I will not sue the principal debtor. If such a terms and conditions here is there, assurance is there from the creditor, the surety is said to have been discharged. So that is giving time or agreeing not to sue the principal debtor. In this circumstance also the surety gets discharged. And the last one is loss of security. So if the creditor has taken any additional security from the principal debtor apart from the here guarantee. So here once the liability is discharged by the surety, he is entitled to the securities. We have seen it in the rights of securities. He gets the right to those securities. So if any loss is there by the creditor of those securities, to the extent of the price of those securities, the liability is discharged of the surety then. The liability. In the morning we have studied about this here. We have studied about in the rights. That here, what are the rights? Here's one of the thing is here if surety discharges the liability to the creditor, he is entitled to those securities if he has taken from the principal debtor additional securities. Those should be given to the surety now. So if there is a loss to those any securities to the extent of the value or the price of those securities, the surety is discharged from his liability or responsibility. That is a loss of securities. So like this, here these are the different circumstances where the surety gets discharged from his here the responsibilities or the liabilities. The 6 important here the modes, how the surety gets a discharge from his liability. So this is actually a small topic, just you have to give one examples for this. By giving one example, you can here say that this mainly is the mode. For example, when you say notice of revocation, say that A here mainly is the owner of the house, where B is staying, he is the tenant, and here for 12 months C has given the assurance that B will pay the regular rent to A. It is 12 months. Yes, it is a series of transactions. Every month he should pay that. Now after 6 months, C here mainly sends the letter of revocation to both, saying that he has revoked his mainly the surety. So up to 6 months surety is liable, not for the future transaction. Such examples you can give here also, debt and insanity. Variance, for example, A, B, C, the transaction is there. A is the principal debtor, B is the surety, B is the creditor, and here C is the surety. So A has taken a debt of 1 lakh rupees, where the C has given the assurance. He has given the assurance, and the rate of interest payable is 3%. The principal debtor and the creditor here, they change this to 8%, makes a variation without the knowledge of the surety. So surety C is discharged from his liability. That is variance in terms of the contract without his knowledge. So if the creditor releases the principal debtor, then surety is also released there. Giving time or agreeing not to sue the principal debtor, again you can give an example. To the extent of the securities price, here he is discharged. So this is the last topic what we have got in contract of guarantee. So these are the first two specific contracts, contract of indemnity and contract of guarantee. The next will be the contract of bailment and the contract of pledge. So this will be the next topic which we are going to continue. We will continue.